Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, please. Om Jnana Timirandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Savitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakambitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dhina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tabcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 Transcendental Knowledge Gyan Vibhag Yoga, text number 18. Please repeat. Karmani akarma yaha pasyat akarmani cha karma yaha sa buddhiman manusheshu sa yuktaha krishna karmakrit karmani akarmani yat pasyat akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhimam manushyeshu sayukta krishna karmakrit karmani akarma yat pasyat akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta krishna karmakrit karmani akarma yak pasyat akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhimam manushyeshu sayukta krishna karmakrit. Okay. Sabuddhimam manushyeshu sayukta krishna karmakrit Karmani akarma yak pasyat akarmani chakarmaya sabuddhimam manusyeshu sayuktaha karma. Okay, please repeat. Karmani, in action. Akarma, inaction. Yaha, one who. Pasyat, observes. Akarmani, in inaction. Cha, also. Karma, fruitive action. Yaha, one who. Saha, he. Buddhimam, is intelligent. Manusyeshu, in human society. Saha, he. Yuktaha, in the transcendental position. Krishna karma krit, although engaged in all activities. TK. So translation, Srila Prabhupada. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. Please repeat. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. Purport Srila Prabhupada. A person acting in Krishna consciousness is naturally free from the bonds of karma. His activities are all performed for Krishna. Therefore, he does not enjoy or suffer any of the effects of work. Consequently, he is intelligent in human society, even though he is engaged, in all sorts of activities for Krishna. Akarma means without reaction to work. The impersonalist ceases fruitive actions out of fear, so that the resultant action may not be a stumbling block on the path of self-realization. But the personalist knows rightly his position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Because everything is done for Krishna, he enjoys only transcendental happiness in the discharge of this service. Those who are engaged in this process are known to be without desire for personal sense gratification. The sense of eternal servitorship to Krishna makes one immune to all sorts of reactionary elements of work. Mukam karochi vachalam pangam naite grimya kripatamaham bande Shri Guru vinutarinam. Karmani akarma yaha pasyat akarmani cha karma yaha sabuddhimam manusyeshu sayukta Krishna karma krit. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So, this is why we need acharya. You see, this first line is actually very clear because of Prabhupada's purport, but somebody who may read this without listening to Acharya's purports, they'll say, what does this mean? Inaction in action and action in inaction, he may have a hard time understanding that. That's why Vedic knowledge should be received in disciplic succession. Otherwise, the tendency will be to speculate. That is what everyone is doing in the material world. They've got consciousness and they're analyzing their experience and speculating what it means. But because they're in the Maya Shakti, the illusory potency, all their conclusions are illusory. Just like if you're in the ocean, everything you do is wet. You'll be wet. So whether you're in illusion as a human or an animal or a plant, you're still in illusion. And the foolishness of human society is that they consider this mental speculation, particularly in Kali Yuga, to be progress in knowledge. They go from one mistaken illusory idea to the next. But because time is progressing, they think our knowledge is progressing. But actually they're just going from one illusory conception to the next. Just like when there was Newtonian physics, they had one conception that of a clockwork universe. God had wound up the universe and it was just carrying on according to laws in a clockwork fashion. Then they came along with quantum mechanics. Atoms and molecules are not fixed in orbit, but they go from one position to the next without seemingly traversing the gap in between, and so on and this forth. So always some new analysis, but never conclusive, because they're using the senses and the mind, and the senses are inefficient and the mind is not enlightened. So inefficient information and anuman. Pratyaksha means sense perception. Anuman means analysis of that experience. Then you will only get a limited range of knowledge. You'll never get the full picture. Therefore the knowledge of the Vedas comes in disciplic succession. Therefore it's called Shruti. The Veda is Shruti, that which is heard from the realized source. Realized why? Because there is a realm beyond the material senses, beyond the material mind, beyond the illusion soul, and that is the transcendental abode. And that transcendental realm is working according to principles far beyond the limited functions of the material world, beyond material time, beyond material laws, beyond illusion. But in that realm, everyone is free of anxiety, free of illusion, situated in bliss, situated in their relationship with Krishna. But in the material world, everyone is asa. They're situated, identifying with the temporary material body. They're in illusion. The conception, their understanding of reality is faulty, always subject to flux and change. And then their sense of happiness is completely minimal. Generally they're experiencing the miseries of birth, death, old age and disease. And their personality is illusory. One time they identify I'm a woman, next time I'm a man, next time I'm an animal, next time I'm a deva, next time I'm a rakshasa, plant, and samsara, transmigration. So, to understand that transcendental realm and this knowledge that is spoken by Krishna from the transcendental platform, one needs the acharyas, the uttamadikaris. Uttam. Uttam means two. Ut tama. Ut, above tama. Above the ignorance of the material world. Above the illusory sphere. So one should take shelter at the lotus feet of the Uttamadhikari, the Mahabhagavan. Somebody who is beyond the ignorance, the illusion of the material world. Then it's very clear. Why is it very clear? Because the soul is a knower. The soul by nature understands spiritual knowledge. That's why when we hear spiritual knowledge correctly in disciplic succession, it rings a bell, you can say. It is satisfying to the consciousness. So that is how you recognize the Uttamadhikari. He fixes you in spiritual realization and you are satisfied. So that is Shruti. That is the potency of Shruti. And if the knowledge is received in disciplic succession, then this sloka, one who observes, that means one who sees from the spiritual platform, not the illusion soul. Well, what does he see? Inaction, inaction. So this means the devotee. He is performing all sorts of material activities. He is not, as Prabhupada mentions, like the Mayavadi, running away from activity. He is engaging his, as Bhakti Vinod says, griha, his material paraphernalia, his mind, his body, and his very soul in the service of Krishna. He's not false renunciant, falgu vairag, monkey renunciation. Srila Bhakti-Siddhanta was very strong on this. Falgu is a monkey renunciation. It's just like a sannyasi or a fake. This is discussed 18th chapter of 11th canto in Bhagavatam. One who, without knowledge, without purity, renounces material activity, but his senses dwell, then this is useless. He's lost in this life and he's lost in the next. But far better is actually also in the Gita. Krishna says to engage the organs of action and the action of the mind in the service of Krishna. So there's that famous verse, Ananya Shakta Vishayan Upayunjita Krishna Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Se Uchite. That's from Nectar of Devotion. And that is very clear that Nirbandha Sambandhe, we give up those things that are not pleasing to Krishna, and those things that are pleasing to Krishna, those services within the scope of Krishna consciousness, then we perform those for Krishna, the pleasure, satisfaction of Krishna. Yukta Vairagya Sayuchite. And that is real renunciation. That is renunciation in relationship to Krishna. Because that person, as it says here, he's performing inaction in his action. In his action, his karma, he's performing inaction. Because it's performed for Krishna, therefore it becomes transcendental. Becomes in the chit shakti. Therefore there's no material reaction. That is a simple understanding of this. And then, one who sees, one who observes, action in inaction. So what does that mean? That means somebody is doing something, but he's still bound by karma. Because you may run away from your material duties, akarma, not doing your dharma, your varnashram karma. and think I'm taking sannyas, I don't have to perform all that. But if you're not positively engaged in Krishna's service, then you're not liberated. What is that verse? Yene Ravinda Mukta Maninas Apishuddha Buddhaya. They perform austerity in renunciation and diet and meditation on the Brahman, but they do not go beyond the Brahman to the resting place of Golok, the Vaikuntha Lokas. So then they Arudha Krishrena Param Param, they fall down. Just like you may go up in the sky, but unless you land on another planet, you have to return to earth. So through austerity, through renunciation, you may become liberated by tapasya, meditation on the impersonal energy of Krishna. But you're not finding a resting place because you're not worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, who is the source of that Brahman effulgence. Haranmayena patrena satyasya pahitam mukam. That in the Upanishad is stated, please Lord, remove your glowing effulgence so that I can see your form of bliss. So the very important point. The personal is above the impersonal. The form, the rupa of Krishna, is above the Brahman effulgence. The Mayavadi, though, the misinformed, unintelligent, think that no, the Brahman interacts with the material energy and produces Krishna, produces the devatas, so on and so forth. But that is dealt with very carefully in the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra. And how? Because Anandamoy, there's mentioned, I think the first sloka, fourth sutra, Anandamoy Vyasa, that the Supreme Lord, the source of everything, is full of bliss. He's not impersonal. No. And then the next sloka says, the proof is that the person Anandamoy, the absolute truth, is personal, is that the devotees of the Supreme Brahman, Sri Krishna, Vishnu, Baladev says, they become liberated, they become free of the material world. So if Vishnu and Brahma, so on and so forth, especially Vishnu, if he is a material product of Brahman interacting with the modes, then how is it that his devotees become liberated? And the slokas say, because this is the statement of the Veda, Akarma sarvakama muksha karma udharyadi trivyena bhakti yogena yajite purusham param. Whether you want all material desires, or you have no material desires, or you desire liberation, or you deserve bhakti, you are only intelligent if you worship the Supreme Person, Purusham Param. And even Shankaracharya, he is Lord Shiva, he says in his Sarikavasya, Narayano Ro Vyakta. So Narayan is above the modes. Narayan. Nara, soul or person, Arayan, shelter. He is the supreme shelter of all souls. So if he's not above the material energy, how can he give shelter? So those who are not intelligent, Abuddhiman, they think that the supreme is attained by this vairag, inaction. And that is what Arjuna was chastised for at the beginning, right? He didn't like what was before him, having to fight. So he said, let me go away to the forest. Better to live by begging, like a Mayavadi sannyas, like a monist. Let me do that. It's better than getting in this war, getting bound up in all the reaction. And what will the reaction be? I'll kill all these great leaders of society. The women will be unprotected. Then bad progeny. And then bad progeny will ruin society. And I will have been the cause of this. And I'll go to hell. So Arjuna, Krishna, you know the answer. Says, Arjuna, you're a very learned man. You sound very good. But everything you say is a load of rubbish. While speaking learned words, Krishna says, but you're just full of foolish ideas. No, Arjuna, you are a Kshatriya, and Yudhisthira, he is qualified to be on the throne. Duryodhana is not qualified. This whole battle is my arrangement to put a pious king in charge and to remove the expansion of Kali, Duryodhana. And you as a Kshatriya have to do your duty. But if you want to be free of reaction, which is your worry, don't run away. Rather, perform your activity in my service. Right? So that is inaction. But if you go away and do inaction, you don't perform your Kshatriya duty, that is action, because you're failing to do your duty without excuse. Because this is my arrangement. At the beginning of 10th canto, we know in Bhagavatam, right, that the earth was covered by demoniac rulers, was burdened by unnecessary military forces, and they were taxing the people, causing hellish condition in the human society. So Lord Brahma called for Vishnu to come and sort the problem out. So Krishna has now appeared and he's sorting the problem out. He's gone in every way. Sometimes say, oh well, Krishna is God, why is he making Arjuna fight? They think like that. But actually no, Krishna isn't telling Arjuna to fight. What he's telling Arjuna is, do your duty. He's not exhorting violence. He's saying, you have to do your duty. And in human society, guna karma vibhagasha, there are kshatriyas. They are necessary, because you're in the material world. And not everyone is a sadhu. Not everyone is a buddhiman. Not everyone is, there is demoniac elements upon the planet. So therefore we need kshatriya. So you cannot, like the foolish anarchists say, oh, we don't need government, we just need to live peacefully under trees and in nice cottages by the riverbank. No, it'll never be like that. Because there will always be bad elements. It's the material world. There will always be bad people, fallen souls that are not in the mode of goodness, that are in passion and ignorance. So therefore, Arjuna, do your duty. That is inaction. But if you run away, that is action. Point is clear, right? You all know that. You're all learned devotees. But this is clear to you. Why? Because we are all sheltered at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Bhakti Vinod, Veda Vyas, Sat Goswami, Sat Sandhavas, Nectar of Devotion. So we understand, that is Vairag. Ananyasya Shaktasya. Vishaya Upayanjitam. So, we want to become free of Maya Shakti, yes, because we want to go to the transcendental realm. We want to become free. But why is Krishna explaining all this? I think that's verse 16. Yes. Kim karma kim akarmeti kavyeopi atrit mohita tate karma pravakshami yakshyakva mukshashe shubhat. Even the intelligent are bewildered, determining what is action and what is inaction. Right, now we all understand. Now I shall explain to you, Krishna is saying, what action is, knowing which you will be liberated from all misfortune. So the misfortune means staying in the cycle of birth and death in the material world. So Krishna is explaining, is introducing this section about action and inaction. And he's explaining in the beginning that if you understand this, you'll become liberated. Liberated from all misfortune. Yagyatva mukshase shubhat. Knowing this, you will be liberated from ill fortune. The intricacies of action, number 17, are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So there he's talking about karma is generally a generic title, it means work. But then karma can mean specifically your duty in varnashram. Then akarma can also mean not performing your varnashram duty, like Arjuna was thinking. That is inaction, which is really action because you're not performing your duty, so you get reaction. Then there is vikarma, that is pap, sinful activity. Action which is not according to your varnashram duties. Then there is naiskarmya karma. That will be discussed in the 5th chapter. Naiskarmya, kamya, not karmya. Kamya means no desire action, desireless action. So that also is introductory and leading on to bhakti. But in bhakti we perform our activities imbued with the sense of yajna for the pleasure of Krishna. So you have naiskarmya, action which is without material desire. Then you have karma, your work, vikarma, work which is sinful. Then you have ugrakarma, which is a progression of vikarma. Ugrakarma means grossly sinful work, like they're doing now. It's the coinage of today. Polluting the rivers, polluting the air, polluting the food supply with GMO, polluting everything, putting chemtrails in the air, polluting the consciousness with demoniac television programs. That is all ugrakarma, destroying the environment, so on and so forth. And then you have akarma, which in this context means inaction, or meaning action which bears no material fruit. So they're all under the title of karma, meaning work. They're all different types of work. Pious work, impious work, transcendentally situated work. So if you understand these things, Krishna says, mukshase, then shubhat, you become liberated from dangerous things. Now today's verse, one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is transcendental position, although engaged of all sorts of activities. So look, he is in the transcendental position, and Prabhupada translates that meaning the buddhiman. So the intelligent person is the person in transcendental terms, spiritual terms, is the person who is transcendentally situated. If you're materially situated, you cannot be intelligent. You may be maya aprita jnana, you may be mudha, naradana, so on and so forth. You may be duskritino, but you're not buddhiman. Because only the transcendentally situated person sees things as they are. And he sees the things as they are spontaneously. You understand? Transcendental consciousness is natural to the soul. It is not something that you have to learn through Bhagavad Gita. It is the nature of the soul to be cognizant, to be free of illusion. And so by contact with Anandamoya, the blissful person, one becomes free of fear, one becomes free of illusion, one becomes free of misery, and free of illusory conception of the self. And that is how the soul wakes up. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. As the soul wakes up, Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra Bole, the first aspect is, as Sat aspect awakens, becomes prevalent in the consciousness, then naturally, as we say, it's the natural state, one becomes fearless, because one realizes his eternal nature. And then as the Chit aspect wakes up, one becomes free of illusion. One becomes situated in truth and the perception of truth. And then as Ananda wakes up, one becomes blissful, he becomes free of material misery. And then in that Ananda state, he realizes his relationship, Vigraha, his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Satchidananda Vigraha, Krishna. So we're sleeping souls now. We're covered by the illusory energy. Just like a seed, a beej. It's not fully manifest its potency as a tree, for example. But by bhakti yoga, by this knowledge, then one becomes spiritually situated, one realizes the Anandamoy, the Supreme Person, and then all his spiritual nature becomes manifest. And that's why, and here's the proof, just like we say at the beginning, how can we understand this? Through the words of the Acharya. And the Acharya is speaking very brilliantly and wonderfully, we see in Srila Prabhupada. Why? Because he's transcendently situated. So everything he says is free of fault, full of bhakti. And if we absorb that teaching, it wakens up our natural spiritual faculties. This is an important point. So this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. If you understand all these things, then you'll become spiritually situated and you'll see things as they are. He is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So therefore, we see, Srila Prabhupada was tireless. He was traveling all over the world at the age of 65, 70, 80. He was preaching, lecturing, getting books printed, advising on legal affairs, opening temples, installing deities. Was he sitting under a tree? No. We wouldn't be here today if Prabhupada was sitting under a tree, thinking, oh, spiritual life means to run away from the world. No. Spiritual life means to bring transcendence and manifest it within the material sphere. And that is the duty of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna. To kick aside all this false renunciation, this idea that spiritual life, here, spiritual life is being explained where? Is it in a front room over a cup of herbal tea? No, it's on a battlefield right before a battle. Sublime spiritual knowledge. So if spiritual life is valid, it should be valid on the battlefield as well as the comfortable veranda overlooking the sea and the shining moon upon the glistening waves. Spirit is available in every situation, and spiritual knowledge can be understood and practiced in all sorts of activities. This is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. And we have that potency, and how do we attain that level of freedom from Maya Shakti? By Shruti, by hearing, by studying the words of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And then we wake up. Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra Bole, Pisa Chera, Gota Nidra, Jaitu. Enechio Sodi Maya, Nasi Barulagi. Yes, so take the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and wake up. Jeev Jago, don't sleep in the lap of Maya. Pisa, Pisachi is that's a kind of Bhuta, a kind of ghost that's evil-minded. I was studying all these things last week. What a Preta is. A Preta is a kind of subtle entity that's always hungry. You know that? I think we talked about it last week. So Pishasha is a kind of entity that's angry, that wants to make trouble. A Preta is one that's, oh my God. I'm hungry, but I haven't got a mouth. I've only got a subtle body. I'd do anything for a kachori. So anyway, that is misfortune, you see. But even those living entities, by hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, they can be put on the path of liberation. So that is our duty, to manifest the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki. Any question?